Welcome everyone to today's webinar, Getting Started with myPATH. We will get started here in just a moment. Going to let some more people come in over the next minute or two. Going to wait about another minute. There are still more people coming into the webinar. Okay, we're going to get started. I'm sure more will come in, and when they come in, they'll just be listening to the introduction. We all know what it's like if you go to a movie theater, to a drive-in. The first 15 minutes to 30 minutes is previews. So I'm going to go ahead and speak since I'm the preview. You're not actually here to listen to me. You're here to listen to our speaker from the Pennsylvania Department of Revenue. My name is Corey Riley. I'm with the Penn West University Clarion SBDC. And I'm glad that you joined us today. This is going to be an excellent training. Today's webinar is the first of 4 webinars in our 2025 tax series training events. The Pennsylvania SBDC is partnering with the Pennsylvania Department of Revenue to provide this training to you and to answer many questions that you, the business owners and or employees, have about taxes. Today, we're going to be discussing how to get started with the Department of Revenue's self-service portal called myPATH. With this, we're going to cover what type of profile users should be created, as well as how to successfully register, gain access to both personal and business-related accounts, and explain what features are available through the portal, both as a logged-in user and a non-logged-in user. Before we get started, let me review a few reminders for our webinar. Following today's webinar, you will receive all the presentation slides, our webinar series flyer that you just saw, and Allie, we were talking about this, a recording of our webinar. All participants have been muted and video disabled. So if you have a question for our presenter, pay attention now. There is a Q&A button within your Zoom on your screen. You're going to click on the Q&A when you have a question for the presenter. There's also a chat button. The chat button is going to be used if you have a question for me, the host. Now, I'm not here to answer your myPATH questions. So if you have an issue going on with Zoom, reach out to me, or if you have a question about the SBDC, reach out to me using the chat button. Otherwise, please use the Q&A button so that those that are with us from the Pennsylvania Department of Revenue will be able to try to answer your questions. Now, let me introduce you to the Small Business Development Center if you're not already familiar with us. We are a grant-funded program with a mission to help businesses start, grow, and prosper. We provide education information and tools to help businesses make better decisions. We do this through our business consulting services and through training such as this. Our one-on-one consulting services are confidential and, best of all, provided at no charge. We offer training seminars as well on a variety of topics that target the needs of small businesses. Our definition of a small business is generally a business with less than 500 employees. So most businesses across the state of Pennsylvania can utilize the SBDC services. We also use our funding to provide access to database information and resources related to conducting industry and market research, as well as financial analysis and implementing marketing strategies. The SBDC partners with many economic development organizations to help connect business owners to many more resources to help them start and grow their business. In Pennsylvania, there are 15 SBDCs across the state of Pennsylvania. We're all located within institutions of higher education. Why does that matter to you? Our institutions of higher education are a wealth of information that we think of mostly for college students, right? Well, there's a lot of information there that can be used to help our entire community. So especially those of you that are entrepreneurs, we can tap into the resources of each of our universities. So our particular SBDC is located at Penn West University in Clarion, Pennsylvania. But as you'll see on the screen here, there are a total of 15 SBDCs across the state of Pennsylvania. If you're not registered to utilize the SBDC services as I outlined to you, there will be a link emailed to you after this training that you can sign up for our services that are, again, offered at no charge. So please take advantage of that. In answering any questions that you might have as you start a business, or again, as even if you're in business and you're to a point now that you want to sell your business and you're asking yourself, what's involved in selling my business and closing my business down, the SBDC is there to help answer those questions. Now, I'd like to introduce you to our guest speaker, the person that you're here to see from the Pennsylvania Department of Revenue, Allie. She is an administrative officer in the Customer Outreach Relations and Engagement Division of the Customer Experience Center for the Pennsylvania Department of Revenue. She has been employed with the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania for nearly 12 years, 10 of which have been spent at various roles within the Department of Revenue. Allie started her career at Revenue as a legal assistant in the Office of Chief Counsel. She then spent over 3 years supervising in the Bureau of Registration and Taxpayer Management before transitioning to a role as an agent in the Customer Experience Center. From there, she served as an assistant in the executive office before returning to Customer Experience Center as a research analyst in the Customer Outreach Relations and Engagement Division. Recently, she was promoted to a supervisor within the division, where she now manages presentation requests, represents the agency at public speaking and events, and creates or reviews outreach and educational content. Now, you might be asking yourself, why did that all matter? It really does matter because we want you to know, and she would want you to know that she is bringing lots of experience, lots of education to this presentation for you. So we know right now we got a handle on someone that's going to share lots and lots of good information. So Allie, thank you for being with us today, and I'm going to turn this training over to you.
All right, thank you so much, Corey. Let me go ahead and share my screen before we get started. All right. You seeing everything okay?
Yes.
Great. All right, so thank you again, Corey, and good afternoon, everyone. As Corey said, my name is Allie Winkelspeck, and I am a supervisor in our Customer Outreach Relations and Engagement Division, or what we like to call CORE, within the Customer Experience Center here at the Pennsylvania Department of Revenue. So I am going to start off by saying that this is a recorded presentation. So if some of you do not consent to the recording, we do ask that you go ahead and hop off of this call. If you are fine with the recording, then we're going to go ahead and finish getting started. So today we're going to talk about how to get started with myPATH. All right, so this slide shows our agenda for today. First, we're going to kind of talk about what is myPATH. Then we're going to have a discussion about our non-logged in features versus our logged in features. And then we're going to end the presentation with some resources that you can use to better assist yourselves outside of this presentation. So what is myPATH? myPATH stands for My Pennsylvania Tax Hub. So essentially, this is our online customer portal that is providing many self-service options, such as registering new tax accounts, accurately and securely filing tax returns, making payments, managing your tax accounts, and then also interacting with the department. So it's very important to understand what all you can do through myPATH because it is our fastest and most efficient way to interact with the Pennsylvania Department of Revenue. We also have an entire team of experts that is dedicated to designing and enhancing the functionality that is available through our customer portal. And they're always making sure that they are keeping security at the forefront of their conversations. So what are the benefits to using myPATH? You can see here that we are available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, meaning you don't have to wait for our offices to be open to try and reach us through a phone call. You can do things such as respond to a letter or make a payment or request an address change, etc. myPath is also compatible with any device and most browsers, so you can file your taxes or make payments from a smart device. It's also programmed with error-reducing automatic calculators. So that means by using myPath, there's a much smaller chance of a mathematical error happening and delaying the process of our returns and our refunds. And then additionally, this portal is very intuitive. So depending on how you are going to answer specific questions, it determines which information needs to be submitted along with your return prior to completing your submission. And then finally, you receive instant confirmation. So every transaction that you complete within myPath, it's going to provide you a confirmation number so that you can go back in and reference that confirmation number or your submission if you ever need to call into the department. All right, so since most of you are small business owners, it's important for you to understand what is available to you, as myPath is the only way to electronically manage your business tax accounts. So when we usually talk about myPath, we break it down into our non-logged in features versus our logged in features. So first we're going to talk about our non-logged in features. All right, so our non-logged in features, that is any feature that can be done without creating a username and password in order to complete a transaction. So most of these items are going to be found directly on our myPath homepage. And to get to that homepage, you simply type in mypath.pa.gov into your browser, and you want to make sure you scroll down past that big login box that's on the right there. It's going to be black and it's going to be the first thing that you see. So you'll notice on the image on the slide here that the homepage is broken down into several different panels based on the functionality. We're going to talk about every single one of these panels in more detail here. So our first panel that we're showing is our payments panel. Most of you may have guessed, but this is where you go to remit your tax payments. So the first hyperlink is make a payment, and this applies usually to our individuals, trust accounts, use tax customers, pass-through entities, or non-resident consolidated accounts, and then some other tobacco license holders. So most commonly, this would be if you are a sole proprietor or an entity filing under your social security number and completing a PA Schedule C, in which case you could use this option to submit an estimated payment, extension payment, or a voucher payment that is due with filing your income tax return. There's also the ability to pay a bill or make a wage garnishment or bank attachment payment under this option. So as long as you have a notice from the Department of Revenue, which contains a letter ID to remit those payments, you can do that regardless of the tax type. The next link is track my payments and credits. And this is very helpful for the folks who are remitting estimated payments. We always encourage our customers to verify their estimated payments prior to submitting the returns, just to make sure that they won't match each other when they go to submit that return. It will also show you any credits or net operating losses that are available on your account. The next link is to pay off a lien. So if you know you have a lien filed and due back taxes, you can use this feature to resolve that delinquency or to search for any liens under your identification number. And then finally, we have to set up a payment plan. This feature is one of the few hyperlinks on the homepage that's going to actually prompt you to log in. And I say that because this function cannot be completed without looking across the complete customer account to see if there's any other tax accounts that is associated with that customer. So you would need to establish a myPATH profile in order to set up a payment plan with the Department of Revenue. All right. Our next panel is the returns panel, and this is where you will go to file a specific tax return. As you can see here, the very first option is to file a Pennsylvania personal income tax return. This is your PA 40 or the state tax return that you must file every year. So I know some of you are sole proprietors that are here today, but I do want to mention about filing a personal income tax return is that when you are asked the question, when you drill down into the account, it's going to ask you a question. Did you file a Pennsylvania tax return for tax years 2020? Well, it'll say the prior two tax years, and then you'll select yes or no. If you did file previously, you would select yes, and then you would need your line 12 information. However, there is a feature on here that says, did you file previously? And if you enter no, it will ask you then for your birth date and your Pennsylvania driver's license number, along with the driver's license expiration date. If you are able to go ahead and enter that information, it will allow you to continue and filing your Pennsylvania tax return. So if for some reason you're not able to remember the tax liability, this is a way to go ahead and bypass that option so that you can go in and still file your Pennsylvania tax return as long as you have that Pennsylvania driver's license number. And it must be an active driver's license. So it can't be one that is needs to be renewed. It has to be fully active. All right. So back to the returns panel. The next hyperlink on the returns panel is how to file a business tax return. So this will basically show you which returns can be filed, but it's also going to prompt you to log in because most of our business tax functionality is by being logged into our myPATH system. Next is to file a use tax return. So this feature can be used for personal use tax or business use tax. However, the system is intuitive to know that if a customer has a sales and use tax license or a sales and use tax account, it's going to prompt them to file and pay through their sales tax account if that is the case. And then lastly, you can see any amounts from a 1099-G or a 1099 INT that were issued from the department for any overpayment or interest that you may have received in prior years. It's very important to note that this does not include the 1099-Gs that are issued for unemployment compensation. If you have somebody that is asking you about the unemployment compensations, you need to either contact the Department of Labor and Industry directly or tell them that that's where they need to go ahead and contact for anything that deals with that unemployment compensation. We do not administer that tax. Okay. Next up is going to be our registration panel. And this is the panel that is going to house our online business tax registration, which if you guys have been around for a while, it's going to replace our PA 100 application. So this is the current business registration application for business taxes such as employer withholding, sales tax, miscellaneous taxes, etc. So this panel is going to have both the link for filing a registration application as well as a link to check on the status. We do want you to be aware that if you are registering a business tax account from the myPATH homepage, that is only available to a brand new entity. So that means that there are absolutely 0 tax accounts with Pennsylvania. If you are already registered for a tax account with Pennsylvania, you will need to create a myPATH profile, log in, and choose that option to register a new business tax account, which I am going to show you later on in the presentation. If you are a sole proprietor and you are operating under your Social Security number, and you're receiving an error message when attempting to register from the homepage, this is because you are deemed to have a tax account with Pennsylvania since you are likely filing personal income tax. I apologize, let me go back there. The next 2 options are going to be for filing for a nonprofit sales tax exemption application or to check the status of that application. This is the Rev 72. This is not the Rev 1220. So again, brand new entities should be submitting their application from the myPATH homepage, and then those existing entities will need to log into their myPATH profile to either apply or renew their exemption status. The next panel is our rebates panel, and this is where you can file for a property tax or rent rebate application, as well as check the status of a submitted application. We're not going to go too deep into this because it doesn't usually apply to this audience, but we do want to know that this feature is available on our homepage. The refunds panel. This is exactly what it sounds like. This is to check the status of a personal income tax refund. You will need the tax year, refund amount, and the Social Security number that the refund is tied to in order to use this function. This is not for any business tax refunds. This is specifically for the personal income tax refund. All right. If you received an identity verification notice, you may complete the necessary action right from the myPATH homepage. So essentially, we may send you a letter that we need you to verify your identity. What you're going to do is go to our myPATH homepage, locate the identity verification panel, and then you want to select the option either to take the ID verification quiz or enter the verification code depending on the type of letter that you received. We do want to make sure that it is the actual customer that is completing this transaction. So whereas if you're a tax professional and you are trying to help your client, we do really recommend that your client is the one that actually does the transaction. All right. The additional services panel. This is where we house a lot of our miscellaneous features that are all non-logged in functions. And to us, this is probably one of the most important panels when you are interacting with us. And this very first one here. So if you are attempting to respond to a notice that you received from the department, you should absolutely be using the respond to a letter feature directly from our myPATH homepage. This feature is going to place a hold on the account so that it does not continue to move through that collections process. So for example, if an account is in a billing status, it's not going to move until an assessment until we have reviewed the correspondence that you provided to the department. We do want you to be aware though, you cannot respond to an assessment notice through this feature. Once you have gone into an assessment status, the only option you have is to petition the Board of Appeals. Excuse me. All right. And also, you should be using the letter ID that is from the appropriate notice to address your situation. So for example, if you received a billing notice and a notice of adjustment, you should be responding to the billing notice. All right. The next option is to find a submission. So anytime you do a transaction, you will receive a confirmation code. You want to make sure you keep that confirmation code because you can look up the submission with that confirmation code and the email address. So this audience will most likely use that if you want to locate a payment or finish filing a personal income tax return. If you started it and didn't fully complete it, you can go back into that submission and then finish that filing your personal income tax return. Please be aware that you cannot use this feature to track your response to a letter. Unfortunately, you would need to contact the Customer Experience Center to get an updated status. All right. The next link that we have is the tax due dates, and that's exactly what it sounds like. This feature is going to allow you to enter your account type and filing frequency, and then it's going to provide you of a list of due dates for that selected filing period. You can also retrieve printable copies of W-2Gs. These are the ones that are issued from lottery for gambling or lottery winnings. So those forms are also available under this panel. The penalty and interest calculator. It can calculate the amount of penalty and interest due based on the amount of tax for a specific account type, depending on how late the return or payment is. So if you are filing your tax return and it's going to be late and you need to send a payment in with it, likely chances are you're going to have a penalty that is due with that. You can go in here and see the amount of penalty that you would need to include with that payment so that you can send that in with your return. And then finally, we have the Track My Inheritance tax return. This is an option so that once folks submit their inheritance tax returns, they can track to see where it is in the process. The next panel on the homepage is our tax compliance panel. So from this panel, you can actually request a corporate lien certificate. If you are not familiar with what a corporate lien certificate, it's the document issued by the Department of Revenue, which reflects the corporation tax liabilities for the entity. So please note that a lien certificate is not a substitute for a corporate tax clearance or a bulk sale clearance certificate. There is a $2 fee that is associated with the corporate lien certificate. Unfortunately, it does still have to be mailed into the department, and you cannot submit the fee electronically. And finally, if you receive a letter from the department asking you to verify or update your contact information, this is where you would go to do that from this panel as well. Lastly, we have the Learn More panel. So this panel has links to resources or information that you may need when using our myPath system. And all of this can also be found on our department's website. That first link there, the myPath video tutorials, these are our Revenue 411 instructional videos that we have put together to help you walk through a certain or a specific transaction on myPath. So they're really, really great informational tools. They're going to give you that step-by-step guidance on how to complete that transaction. That next one there, that customer service center, this is going to take you directly to an online customer service center or our frequently asked questions section of our website. And on there, we have thousands of frequently asked questions where you can go into and find anything that is specific to the tax that you are looking for, or even a function in myPath. There is a way to also submit a question if you are not seeing something that has to do with the specific scenario you are looking for. So you can submit your own question to us and one of our agents will answer you. The third link there is tax forms and instructions. That is going to take you directly to the forms and instructions on our website. And then the final link there for contact us, that is going to also take you back to our revenue website to the contact information that includes phone numbers, district office information, mailing addresses, and more. All right, so that is all of our non-logged in features. We're going to now talk about our logged in features. And these are all the things that you can do after you went through and created your user profile and gained access to the appropriate tax accounts. So most business tax functionality is going to be under the logged in features. So you want to make sure that you are paying attention when we're talking about the logged in features and how you sign up for that profile and then add access to the accounts so that you can follow along there with us. All right, so creating a myPath profile. Creating your profile is very important. And you want to make sure you have that profile. So when you go to file your returns and submit payments, it's not slowing things down. So from the home page, you will want to navigate to that black logon box at the very top of the myPath homepage, and you'll select that sign up link. Once you select that sign up link, you're going to see a screen that's showing information that tells you about what you can do without signing up versus the additional options that are available to you when you do sign up, as well as criteria that you will need to be able to successfully create your profile. So on this page, you are going to need to select either sign up for myPath or the next option. When you select next, an electronics correspondence and communications agreement is going to pop up. You'll want to read through the terms and conditions and then select the box saying that you agree and select next. When you get to this screen, you're going to want to fill in your profile information, your phone number information, and then select no to being a third-party tax professional in the identification panel. After selecting no, you're going to need to select an identification type. You're going to have the option to choose from a federal identification or federal employer identification number, a PATH ID, a revenue ID, or a social security number. Most business owners are going to most likely select that FEIN or the Social Security number. In our example, we're going to be using the FEIN. So once you have selected the federal employer identification from the dropdown and entered in the appropriate ID number on the line, you're going to need to enter the business name exactly as it is for the department records. So what I want to say here is, if you are a sole proprietor and you are operating under your Social Security number, you do want to make sure that the business name you're entering is your last name. Okay. If you're operating under the FEIN, then you would do your business legal name. Okay. So sole proprietor, you want to use your last name as the legal name. If you are a business operating under the FEIN, you want to use the legal name of the business. The next screen that you are presented with is the account validation. So here you're going to need to choose the account type that you're trying to gain access to. So one thing to keep in mind is about myPATH is everything is driven by tax account or tax type. So you're going to need to add access to each tax account. If someone has an employer withholding account or a sales account, you have to add access to both of those accounts. And we'll talk about it a little bit more later on. But if you have more than one tax account, you want to select the one that you are able to easily validate so that you can go ahead and finish setting up your myPATH profile. So for our example, we requested the corporate net income tax, and then you will see it asks to select the account validation method. Now we can validate this account with four options. We can use a letter ID, we can use the online business registration confirmation number, or we can use the payment amount or return line item. If we use a payment amount or return line item, it cannot be a $0 amount. Okay? If you are unable to validate using one of the methods outlined, you will need to request what we call an access letter in order to gain access to the tax account. Okay, so if for some reason the tax account, you're not able to validate it, you can have this access letter sent to you. And then once you receive that access letter, you can finish validating the account. In some situations, a tax account is associated with federal tax information. And if that's the case, we are required by our agreement with the IRS to send that access letter out before being able to finish validating the account. So you have to receive that access letter if there is any federal tax information associated with your account. If you're a third party requesting an access code letter for your client's account, this letter is always mailed directly to the client. Okay, so you would need to meet up with your client and have them provide you with a letter ID number so that you could finish gaining access to that tax account. All right, updating business address. If the business address has changed since the business was registered and the access code letter is not received within 30 business days from being requested, you must complete the REV 1705R to update, to update the address form. So this form must be submitted directly to the resource account that is listed on the document. And once the address has been updated, a duplicate access code letter can be sent to the new address. The business address cannot be updated by a phone call or an email request. So the access code letters can only be sent via mail for security reasons. If the business account is a corporation, In that case, to change the address, we do use an REV 854 to update the business address for the corporate account. But this, again, this form will need to be submitted to the resource account prior to being able to update that business address and then send a new access letter out. It can take anywhere up to 30 business days to receive an access letter. And again, it can only be received by the US mail. So for our example, we selected the return line item and entered in the exact amount on the line provided. After completing the necessary fields, myPATH will ask you if you would like to opt in for electronic mail delivery. In that case, you'll choose the option that you would like and then click submit at the bottom of the screen. Once that is done, you're going to receive a confirmation screen, and it's going to advise you to now log in with your new username and password. Clicking OK will take you back to that black login box where you can enter in that username and password you selected and then click Login. Now, after you log in, you will want to set up your two-step verification. For this example, we are going to use the text message. You'll want to enter in the phone number that you would like your authentication code to be sent to, and then you will hit save. This does not need to be the same number that you entered to create your profile. So for example, if you used your business phone number to create your user profile, but you want the security code to go to your cell phone, you can just enter in your cell phone number here. You'll enter in the code that you get via the text and then hit confirm. Once you hit confirm, you're going to come to this page and you will need to enter in your first and last name, as well as select a secret question and answer. You also have the option to add a secondary phone number or set up due date reminders, but it is not required. Once you click save, you will be logged into your user profile and you will immediately see the summary tab. The first item on the summary tab will be the tax account that you validated. If you remember, we chose corporate net income, so that is why I can see all of those details. If you look beneath that, you can see that I have additional tax accounts, but I need to add access to this account before I can perform any transactions for those tax types. So you'll want to select that hyperlink, and then you'll need to choose the type of access or access level that you will want for each additional tax account. File returns and make payments are always going to be the highest level of access. So I personally would recommend that you choose that since you are the primary account owner so that you can see and do whatever that you want to in the account. You're going to want to file returns and view payments. Or I'm sorry, you want to be able to file returns and make payments. Also, please keep in mind that you will need to add access to license accounts as well. So if you are obtaining a sales and use tax account, we give you a sales and use tax account and we give you a sales license account. You will need to add access to the sales tax license account as well before you are able to pay or see anything under that actual license. So once you're done there, you will click save and then you will see the tax type added to your summary. Okay? So after you gain access, if you look at the screen, you're going to see different tabs that are close to the top of the screen. We have Summary, Action Center, Settings, and more. The default is on the Summary tab, and from this tab, you can make payments, request extensions for some taxes, view returns and periods, or file returns. The summary tab can also be used to submit filing frequency changes or even cancel a business account. So this would be located under the account maintenance hyperlink. And that's usually on like a sales and employer tax account. Those are only on the sales and employer tax accounts that you can go in to change that filing frequency and then also request for the account to be closed. Most additional features are found on the More tab. So you can see this is broken down into panels, very similar to our homepage. So let's talk about all of these panels quickly. The first panel is the accounts panel, and this is primarily used for the folks who are existing entities, but then they want to open an additional tax account. So for example, if you already have a sales tax account, but you want to open an employer withholding account, you would go in here and click on the register new business tax accounts. The biggest difference is that some of the information is going to be pre-populated for you versus the external homepage when registering the new business accounts. You can also use this panel to check the status of your registration or request statements of accounts. The submissions panel is very much like the Find a Submission feature on the homepage, but this will show you everything that was completed under this profile. The next panel we will discuss is our message panel. So this is where you would go if you want to send a message to the department or view messages. This is the best way to interact with the department on all matters except for when you need to respond to a notice. When you use this feature, this interaction posts directly to the customer's account, and it's going to create a work item on our end to be viewed. You can also set up due date reminders or manage email subscriptions from this panel. I do want to reiterate that again, this send a message on here, it's not used to respond to notices. So if you do receive a notice from the department and we need you to respond to it, you do need to go back out to that homepage and click on the respond to a letter feature located directly on the myPATH homepage. All right. Our letters panel. So this is where you can locate any notices or letters that were sent by the department. It's going to show you all of the letters that were sent out from the department with the exception of those access letters or any of those ID validation letters. Per our agreement, those letters must be mailed to our customers at the address that is on file for security purposes. All right, next we have our payments and returns panel. This panel is used to track the returns that have been filed or need to be filed. You can also track all payments. This is also where you would go to request any business tax refunds electronically. And you can also submit a request for a payment plan. To request a payment plan directly on myPATH, you must be eligible. You will receive notification from the system if you cannot proceed. So if you are eligible for a payment plan, you are able to set up a 6-month or 24-month based on eligibility. Next, we have the names and addresses panel. This is used to keep your account information up to date. This is very important to remember. If any of the details change with your account, you do want to make sure you go ahead and update this information. Especially if you have like corporate officers or anything like that, that you want them to be able to call in and ask questions about the business, make sure you are updating that information in here. Next, we have the access management panel, and that is used to submit requests for access to other accounts, as well as manage your own access. And then finally, we have the application panel. So this is used to submit a sales tax exemption, that REV 72 request, or complete an R&D credit application. Okay, let's discuss the Manage My Profile link in this top right-hand corner. So if you select that link, once you're on the Manage My Profile, you will be able to see the details regarding your myPath account. You can update the email attached to the account, the two-step verification action, and the phone number, just to name a few of the items. But as you can see, there is another More tab. If you click on that tab, it's a little bit different from the main More tab from the summary screen. Um, on this More tab, the most important panel is the Access Management panel, because this is used to manage access to other accounts, third-party requests or third-party access, to request access or even update the administrative access. So this is also where you would want to go to update any stored payment channels on your account. All right, now let's go over a few of the resources that we have. As I mentioned a few slides ago, we are creating what we call Revenue 411 videos to help navigate customers through myPATH. So this is something that you can easily share with your clients if they're having difficulties using the portal. We are always developing new videos or different transactions that our customers are requesting from us to be added to our video library. So make sure that you are checking our website daily, because we do update those videos. So we have more things than just myPATH on there, but or we're hoping in the future to have more than just myPATH, but we are putting as many as we can out there so that you guys have those step-by-step videos to help guide you through creating a profile or completing a tax return, things like that. We also have a vanity URL, so if you want to get to our videos easily, you can just type in revenue.pa.gov/videos, and that will take you directly to all of our myPath videos. We also have Pathfinder, so it's another source of myPath information. Um, it's our chat bot that you can use when you're accessing myPath. If you are on the myPath homepage, it's always located in that upper right-hand corner. It is truly a virtual assistant, um, who is programmed to handle myPath questions. So there's never going to be like a live agent on the end of that. So you can't just sit in there and type agent, agent, agent and expect somebody to show up. It's not going to happen. It just is programmed to contain a wealth of our knowledge base that we have available for you. And we also have this feature. It's our support ID. So when you are on the myPath homepage, if you select that question mark in the top right-hand corner, it's going to open up our support box. And in there, if you click on that view support ID, what it'll do is it will come up with a message to, here it is, a support ID can be given to the support person to allow them to remotely view your myPath session. So what happens is if you click on view support ID, you get this agreement, you select yes, you get a number to provide the agent that you are either speaking or corresponding with, and then we can remotely see the screen that you are on so that we can go ahead and help you try and navigate or finish the transaction that you are trying to take care of. Okay. And that completes our presentation. So are there any other follow-up questions in chat or anything else that we need to discuss? I haven't looked at the chat at all.
It looks like your team has been doing an amazing job answering these
They
questions.
are fantastic. They are usually on the ball with it. So, um, all right. Well, if there's nothing else, then I will hand it back over to you, Corey.
Okay, and I'll go ahead and close out, but if you do have any lingering questions while I'm speaking, go ahead and use that Q&A. I would first off like to thank everyone that joined in on this webinar. Thank you for joining this event. We again want to thank Allie and her colleagues for partnering with us at the SBDC and making this event possible, and for their time and their valuable information. As you could clearly tell, Allie knows exactly what she's talking about, and her colleagues have answered, I forget now, something like over 30 some questions today that they were answering. So this is a great partnership that we have. As you saw in the introduction slides, and you will get that introduction slides within a day or two, there are 3 other webinars that are in this series. So on June 11th, there will be a webinar called Pennsylvania Taxes for New Businesses. And then on July 9th, there will be Sales Tax Basics. And on August 13th will be Withholding Basics for those of you that have employees. Again, we will forward that slide to you and forward the flyer to you. So no need to try to remember this information. Also, within the 1 to 2 business days, we are also going to receive the slides that you saw Allie talk about, as well as a link to sign up for the SBDC's business consulting services. You're also going to receive a request to complete a survey pertaining to today's webinar. We do kindly ask that you take just a few minutes to complete this survey, because your feedback is what's really valuable to us in order to make sure that what we are providing to you is what you're asking for and that it is fulfilling the needs of your business. So please do just take a moment to complete the survey when you see that in your email. Again, thank you for your time. Please don't hesitate to reach out to the Pennsylvania Department of Revenue through the steps that she showed you on the myPATH website. And also don't hesitate to reach out to us here at the SBDC, who is the person within your community across the state that can help walk you through some of these steps that Allie did show us here today. So, Allie, was there any other questions that you're working on?
It looks like my colleagues are answering them as they are coming in. So I see that they are in a report. Sorry, I'm trying to look at the same time.
Yeah, looks
Um,
like
quick
Rachel's
explanation of
working on.
myPath and Keystone Portal. Yes, so Keystone and myPath are completely separate. Um, the Keystone is more so that portal has to do with um like our board of appeal. The Keystone login is completely separate from myPath. So myPath is our full tax portal in the sense, but they are complete 2 separate standalones. As far as single member LLCs need to be registered in both places, I'm not sure if you're referring to the Department of State or if you're referring to when you say like the Keystone portal. So I think I need a little bit more clarification with that question.
And I think April, I think the LLC, you're gonna register the LLC through the Department of State,
Right, right.
and so
So
then, do you need a MyPath account? It just depends if
typically,
what your
depending
needs
on
are.
the limited liability, right. So it depends on the actual business itself. Most LLCs do not have a filing requirement anymore, unless you are elect to file a specific way, from my understanding. And also, the only reason you would need the MyPath account is if you need to have employees or a sales tax license, or any of those additional business trust fund taxes, so to say. But typically, single member LLCs do not have that filing requirement anymore as far as like the corporate net income goes. So
Good. Okay.
Okay, great, April. Sorry. Sorry if that was a little back and forth. I tried to answer that as best as I could there. As far as the 1099 NEC question, I do know that going forward, we are requiring those other withholding accounts to actually register on myPATH with that other employer withholding account. So you will be required to actually have one of those NEC or other income withholding accounts from our myPATH homepage. So you will want to, starting, I believe, I can't remember, Jason, if it's this year or next year. Feel free to
It'll
come
be
off
next
mute
year.
and talk for me. Thanks.
Yeah, it'll be next year. Entities
Okay, it is
this
next
year
year.
and 2025 from a few months ago, they are able to file like they normally would,
Okay.
including that information with their employer withholding. However, we are sending documentation out to pre-existing entities that do have the 1099 miscellaneous NECs for this upcoming tax year, which would be January of 2026. They will be required to have a separate account ID. Even
Okay.
if
Yep.
there's zero withholding, they are required to have that separate account ID though.
Okay. Yep. That's what I was under the impression for. Thank you, Jason.
Yes. Yep. You're welcome.
All right, Corey.
Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna let everybody go here. I do see there's one last question here. And Rachel looks like she's responding to it. How about we let Rachel or yourself, Alyssa, go ahead and answer this last question, and then we're gonna wrap it up for the day.
That sounds good. So if you do sell taxable items, whether you have a physical location or not within Pennsylvania, you do need to register for a sales tax license on myPATH. Everyone says Keystone, it confuses me a little bit, but I'm pretty sure they're talking about Department of State. As far as Department of State goes, if you have like a full business entity, and I always recommend filing with the Department of State first. So if you are just going to use sell taxable items as like a sole proprietor, then no, you would not need to go to the Department of State in order to register. So.
And please, everybody, reach out to your local SBDC consultant, wherever you might be at in Pennsylvania, for we can work with you to answer these questions as well moving forward outside of this webinar. And if your consultant doesn't know the answer, then they have a wealth of knowledge within the SBDC system to reach out to another consultant. We're all sworn under confidentiality, so we can answer these questions for you. I know over 50% of my clients are existing businesses because of questions like this. And so I get clients from all over, from all the other SBDCs. Some of them refer clients to me to answer some of these questions. So I'm more than willing to answer these questions as well. But then, as I mentioned, come back to the other Pennsylvania Department of Revenue webinars to get more answers as well. So thank you, everybody. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time.
Yep.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Allie.
everybody. Thank you.